The US dollar collapse hype train is in full gear at this point in time. For some reason or another, the mainstream media has picked up on this narrative about the US dollar collapse and really allowed it to grow legs and take off. I've been studying the alternative financial media space for years now. I would argue maybe up to close to 10 years at this point in time. This has used to be a little small community in the finance sector that focused on geopolitics and alternative financial theories and concepts, one of which being the US dollar hegemony and its potential collapse over time and how that would lead to an explosion in certain investment sectors like gold, silver, and other resources as power shifted from west to east. I've also shot a video recently that has covered the history of the US dollar in short, and where a dollar collapse may come from, what it might look like, and also alternative assets you can be in order to buffer yourself if that were to be a thing. In this video, I'm actually kicking back against this US dollar collapse hype, and I'm going to explain why in this video. This is JP from Blueprint for Prosperity, helping you to increase your net worth through relationship banking and maximizing of your borrow capacity, proper use of life insurance, and the ownership of real estate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading content on a daily basis to help you customize your blueprint for prosperity. The US dollar collapse hype has gotten a bit out of control in my personal opinion. Recently, a major economist, particularly in the alternative financial media space named Peter Schiff, has, gotten a lot of attention in recent articles around a series of tweets that he put out, basically exclaiming the US dollar was going to collapse and that you needed to get out of it ASAP. He has some tweets that kind of dove into some depth on what his thoughts and his feelings on the matter. It got picked up in some articles and it's just being pushed out, as you can see. This has gotten to a point where I feel like it's no longer as helpful to people. And many of us who are not in a certain niche, financial position can't benefit from this type of hysteria much more. What do I mean by that? The US dollar is under attack from mostly Eastern power structures and the wavering of collaboration in some Western countries and backdoor bilateral trade deals and other things that are going on where countries are collaborating that have historically been at odds or, have been too far down in the food chain to be relevant on a global stage economically. And these are countries that the US dollar has typically, had a strong dominance over their economics, their politics, domestically and internationally. And that's changing. And it's very true that the US dollar's overall hegemony and, global world currency status is definitely being contested and probably will reach an expiration date at some point in time. There's not much argument there. Nothing lasts forever. Where I think the media is starting to get out of hand with this and starting to create an unhealthy imbalance in the media space for us to consume is this idea that this could happen tomorrow and that people need to drop everything they're doing and get out of the US dollar and rush into these alternative assets. There's a few problems with that. Number one, it's taken decades for the United States to gain its dominance on a global stage when it comes to the US dollar and the world reserve currency status. It's taken decades. And all of the nuances to global politics, to geopolitics, and to global financial affairs is way too intertwined and too in-depth to expect something like global reserve currency status to plummet overnight. And these countries to just pick up this, new collaborative digital coin or pick up some alternative country's current currency and just start running all of the world's transactions through it and trade deals through it is insane. It really is. When you stop and thinking about how many, deals and how much trade and how much policy around the world that would have to be shifted in order to completely dethrone the US dollar it's a bit insane and sensationalized to think that this is something that can happen in a handful of months or the next coming year or so. There are countries that are, no matter how much they don't like the United States, no matter how much they are looking to reposition themselves on a global stage, they are too dependent on the stability of the US dollar as a currency to just ditch it overnight. That's number one. The second problem is the idea of rushing US citizens out of the US dollar at any level of scale in itself will precipitate the collapse of the US dollar. You're literally bringing this to fruition if you were to have people bite onto this idea and actually act on it. You can't, push this media out and expect, and have people respond to it in a fear type of manner and expect it to not have a negative effect under the disguise that you're trying to protect people personally in their given households from a dollar collapse. You're literally exacerbating the problem. The next issue with this situation is the vast majority of people have no idea the geopolitics and global financial affairs at play that the US dollar is related to. So you're creating this hype that all people can understand is that the money in their bank accounts, in their purses and wallets can become useless or worthless overnight. And for one, again, as just described, this isn't realistic. The next thing is people don't really understand enough of the inner workings of this to make educated financial decisions. It just creates paralysis and it creates unnecessary fear. When you stop and think about the alternative assets available to the US dollar that could survive a global reset on, the main currency used for exchange of value. So meaning that the US dollar was to go deceased and be replaced with something else, what assets would allow you to maintain or grow your wealth to transition over? The majority of those assets are going to be, gold and silver, monetary metals, other precious resources, borrowable goods, possibly cryptocurrencies, depending on the circumstances. In some cases and in some formats, real estate, tangible assets. When you stop and think about this, the reality is that most of this is not transactional. They are not transactional goods or items, meaning you can't use them as a medium of exchange effectively in our system. Can you imagine trying to go take gold and silver to the grocery store or the gas station? Can you imagine trying to barter your land or your soybeans or whatever the case may be out for exchange of other daily items we're used to purchasing? Paper currencies serve a purpose. The US dollar serves a major purpose. And for many of us who are living in the real world and aren't, in this fear-based, crazy alternative media space that's now permeating into the mainstream financial news, this idea that, people can just drop what they're doing and get into these barterable goods and buy 10, 20, 100 acres of land and live off of it, or buy a bunch of cryptocurrencies they don't understand is a bit excessive. It's insane. It's becoming insanity. For those of you who are watching this that can understand where I'm coming from and you're hearing about this dollar collapse hype, hopefully I can be at least one small voice in a sea of many that explains to you, yes, the US dollar at some point in time could transition out as the power currency around the globe. Very possible. The likelihood of this is not going to be overnight, and our entire financial system is likely going to go through some kind of shift or overhaul that will help us to adjust to this change. The idea that our entire economic system is just going to implode, the world's just going to collapse on top of us, the US dollar is going to go poof, is not realistic. You want to strategically situate yourself for the potential of this happening in the coming years or decades. This could be a soft shift. There could be a couple black swan events that expedite it. Whatever the case may be, you want to understand that you have to continue to build wealth in this system as it stands today. You trying to usurp whatever wealth that you have into these precious metals and other alternative assets and borrowable goods and hide out in your bunker is going to leave you financially ruined no matter what currency we're using, period. You don't want to fall victim to this type of hype. Be smart, be strategic, absorb the information for its value, and understand that you may want to continuously acquire and accumulate responsibly goods and other valuable assets that can help you in case the dollar does start to decline at a more rapid pace in the coming years. But you have to continue to build wealth and function in the existing system, or you're going to be broke no matter what. There are people who are wealthy enough or living a certain lifestyle and in a position that can take this dollar collapse stuff to the next level and position their lifestyles around it if they so choose to. Most of us, 95, 97, 98% of us, are in a situation where we have to continue to function in this economy and try to find a way to thrive in this economy to the best of our ability. And the complexity of trying to de-dollarize your household and your personal finances is not going to help that process. So I just wanted to bring this video to you for some healthy perspective. It's very important that you are careful about what news and media you consume and how you consume it. As always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope this was valuable for you. Be careful to what you take in and how you function around it. Don't get scared out of your position or tricked out of your position. Stay focused, as I always tell y'all. Stay focused, stay in motion. Continue to make sound financial decisions that make sense for you and your family. This is JP checking out. I'll see y'all soon.